Right, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this workplace readiness session, which has been organized by the University of Pretoria. And I'm joined in studio by Ty Govender. So welcome, Ty. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, and you, Peter.
Fantastic, great. So I'll give Ty a bit of an opportunity just now to give us some context about the session and why it was set up and what we want to achieve. But as Ty's getting ready to give us that context, if I could just ask everybody to please say hi in the chat and let us know any specific questions did you have today about workplace readiness, and looking forward to taking you through some insights to give you real value, and then obviously some opportunities for you to take action straight after the session. So that'll be in the form of some links and some courses and some further content that you can go and dive into just to improve your workplace readiness. Because as a student, that's something that you really need to be thinking about even before you finished your degree. Don't leave it until you're out in the workplace, out in the job market, and trying to build a future for yourself. Obviously, you'll be working very hard to get your degree and your qualification, but you also have to work quite hard on making sure that you've done everything possible to prepare yourself for the workplace. And that's really what we want to help you with today. So we're here to give you that insight, give you that confidence, and position you for as much success as possible in the future. All right, so guys, please do pop a note in the chat. Let us know any specific questions that you've got about workplace readiness. But Ty, maybe just over to you quickly to give us a little bit of context about this session and what we're trying to achieve from the perspective of the University of Pretoria and the specific faculty. And perhaps give us a flavor from your own studies and your own perspective of workplace readiness. Ty Govender, tell us a little bit more about why this session was set up and what we want to accomplish.
So I'm Ty Govender from the University of Pretoria's MC Experience, which is a subhouse that caters to the BCom supply chain, business management, and marketing management degrees. I'm doing this in collaboration with House HR, which is the University of Pretoria's subhouse for BCom HR. So basically what we want to do is get our second to third year students ready for the workplace, because in South Africa, it's vital. A lot of graduates struggle with degrees to find jobs, and we just want to help the students to equip themselves and to be ready. And the jump from university to the working world is such a big one. So just to help them, that type of thing.
Brilliant, Ty. I think this is a fantastic initiative, and certainly going to make sure that we cover those topics today. So I think let's dive in, because we've got quite a bit to get through. And as Ty said, it is a big jump. So it's quite a broad area. We've sort of chosen a number of specific topics that we wanted to look at today. So we'll be looking at interview preparation. We'll be diving into a little bit about the world of work in general, networking, and CV building. And the great news is that we've got prepared content on that, some of which I'll be giving a bit of an introduction to, and we'll be giving you an opportunity then to take action after the session to go in and get some details. So just to say hi to Yavish, great to have you on board. Kaylee, great to have you on board. Lebogang, fantastic, great to see you guys coming online. And Yavish has already got a question straight off the bat. So I always like to pick up the questions. How does one utilize LinkedIn effectively to grow our professional network? All right, so Yavish, we've actually got an entire webinar that we did on LinkedIn to help you with your job search process. And what I'm going to do is I will pop the link to that hour-long webinar in the chat. It was a interview that I did with Tracy Ashington, who is a full-time career coach. And we go into quite an extensive discussion about how to use LinkedIn to grow your professional network. But maybe just to touch on a couple of key things that I've found the most useful from my perspective. Obviously, it's a network similar to your social media platforms, and there's certain aspects there in terms of how you need to maintain your professional branding. But really, you need to be building up contacts, people that are willing to engage with you, look at your content, share your content, and which you're willing to then look at their content as well. And in the course that I'll provide you today, I actually do a live demo or a screen demo of LinkedIn and how I use it to effectively grow my professional network. And once you've established those connections with people on LinkedIn, as you grow in your career, and as you've got thoughts and content that you want to make available from a professional perspective, you'll be able to share that, and people will be able to comment on that and give you feedback, just like you do on your social media environment. Just the last tip that I would give you then is to ask for recommendations. There's a fantastic feature if you've built up your profile and you've started to get connection requests coming through. One of the biggest things that you can do is get recommendations from people on your LinkedIn profile, and then from those recommendations you can go and grab those as references and pop them into your CV. So Yuvish, I'll come to that a little bit more detail as well, and there's a lot more in the course that we'll provide to you as well. Kiara, hi, and absolute pleasure. Great to spend some time with you today. All right, so let's just get into it then. And as I mentioned, we'll be touching really on these four main topics: CV building, interview preparation, the importance of networking. So we'll come back to the question about LinkedIn just now, and then what to expect from the world of work. And just by way of introduction and really focusing on the value that you'll get. So when you sign into any of my courses, you'll become one of my students. And although I'll be going through a lot of topics today, this is really just an overview of what you can expect. And all the information is available on my website there, and I'll put that link into the chat as well. So there's one-on-one lessons that are very much like this type of environment. I also teach from a whiteboard that I have at home, and that's a very engaging sort of process, and you can go through as I build up the picture and the storyline, really highlighting your personal transformation as a result of going through the course. You'll get a certificate, any of the courses that you complete, and I'd really love it that you share that on LinkedIn as well, because that's an opportunity to build your brand, demonstrate to people that you're acquiring new skills. Tag me in that, and I can also reshare that, and then you can leverage my network on LinkedIn as well. And also, open invitation, anybody on this call, more than welcome to drop me a connection request and connect with me on LinkedIn. And then you'll get activities. The best learning is always when you're doing something, when you're active, and you're taking concrete steps to achieve that transformation that you're looking for. So there's activities, there's assignments, there's quizzes. And then, as I indicated, when I take you through LinkedIn in the course, there's a screen demonstration. And in every course, you'll get an opportunity to ask questions, you get announcements, there's lifetime access and updates, worksheets, and then you can introduce yourself to other students and set goals. So really just, that's everything that you'll get when you come into any of my courses, which I'll take you through some of those today. And the first really is this idea of, going through a job interview. And this is our course, myself and Tracy Ashington, that we've actually recently launched. And the simple objective there is that you've reached the stage where you've been invited for an interview, and now you need to close the deal. You need to be able to convert that interview into a job offer. So we take you through the whole process, and I'll step through it just now. But you can see there, Chanel also did the course, and she said she was preparing for a physical job interview. The content was useful, so she appreciated that. And I'm going to put free access to the course in the chat right now so that you can take action. And as I said, once you enroll in any of the courses, then you'll have lifetime access to the course. But the free enrollment only lasts for 3 days. So from this morning until 3 days time, you can enroll in those courses for free and share those as much as you want, and it's available. Anybody that's even coming into this and watching this as a recording, which will be available at the same link that was sent out in the promotional material, if you're within that time period, then you'll be able to also get free access to the course. Okay, and Tombi's got a question here. Does the university the student is from determine whether one will go straight to workplace or they look at one's performance? It's a combination of factors, and Tombi, we will go through the CV masterclass course just now as well, and that's pretty much where that determination would be made. University would be a consideration, performance would be a consideration, your marks, as well as obviously the qualification, the relevance of that qualification to the job that you're applying. So we'll definitely come back to that question shortly. All right, so let's start. How to interview like a boss. So, in the course, and this is really just a couple of extracts from the workbook that you'll get in the course, which you can then use for reference. And it's fantastic. You've been invited for an interview. Really what we advocate and what Tracy teaches in the lessons, drawing on her own experience of 20 years of career coaching. You need to drive the process. You need to find out everything that you can. Don't put down that phone if you've been invited for an interview unless you've got all the possible information. Who are you going to be meeting? What is the job, the role, the position? And once you know that information, it'll help you be more confident and prepare for that interview. And again, if you've got a good LinkedIn network or a good network in general, then you can use that network as well to prepare and increase your level of confidence before going into the interview. And then, of course, all the good things like just getting the basics right of the logistics. You need to know where it is. Obviously, many interviews these days will be virtual. But if you are going in for a physical interview, make sure that you know the route. Make sure that you confirm the day before that the interview is still booked and that you'll be there and ready. And of course, showing up is also equally important. The last thing you want to do is arrive early, but you've arrived early to the wrong place. Or you've spoken to the wrong person and they're still trying to find the person that's supposed to be interviewing you. Once again, drive the process. Make sure that you're waiting outside the room that you're going to be interviewed in. Double check, triple check that you're in that right place. And that just builds your confidence. It builds, and improves the chances that you'll have of, conducting a successful and positive interview. All right, and we also just advocate travel light, keep it, minimalist when you're going into the interview. People have invited you there not for you to read off of your CV or to read out from long, extensive notes that you prepared. They want to get a sense of who you are, and that's really only going to come through if you have an engaging conversation with them that's not sort of distracted with, sort of lots of clutter and notebooks and pens, etc. But at the very least, be able to write something down. As you're being asked questions, you may need to make notes so that you can answer them properly. All right, then, we certainly advocate in the course that, you really engage your interviewer. Obviously, if it's virtual, that's, you need to work a little bit harder. And just to, remember that, when you're presenting or conversing virtually, the digital nature of that interaction reduces the energy levels by about 25%. So you actually need to present a little bit more, with an engaged style and a little bit more confidence and energy for it to come across at the right level. But obviously, if you're in the same room, we've got a lot of tips and tricks for you in the course there about your body movements, how to sit naturally so that you don't sit back and rock, make eye contact. Tracy Ashington talks a lot in the course about some of the interviews that she's been in over the years. And typically where there's a panel interview, 2 or 3 people asking you questions, the person being interviewed would respond to the question, but only to the person asking the question. And what you actually need to do is you need to balance your eye contact. And even though you're answering a question that was asked by one person, use that as an opportunity to talk to everybody else in the panel. That just increases your opportunities of converting that interview into a job. And then, of course, the core format of an interview is questions and answers. So you don't be afraid to pause, take time to listen, ask for clarity. And if you're thinking on your feet, put yourself in their shoes. Try and think about why are they asking that question? What do they want to get out of it? And that'll just help you, position your answer. And don't feel like you have to answer every single question in the interview. You can also offer to follow up with additional answers or the entire answer to a question on email afterwards. And that gives you another link in to, the people that were interviewing you. It gives you another opportunity to continue that conversation and that interaction, even after the actual time of the interview has passed. Okay, so I don't know if we've got any questions as we go through this, but it'll be great to see what you guys are thinking of this topic as we go. And then, going into the interview, are you ready? Do you have the right mindset? Do you know what will happen if something goes wrong? Do you know how to answer the tough questions? If you've done enough research, then you'll probably get a good sense of based on the role that they're interviewing you for, what some of those tough questions might be like. And certainly if you've leveraged your network, as we spoke about just now, if you've got one on LinkedIn or elsewhere, you'll get a good sense of what the common questions are that we asked in interviews for that specific role. I've interviewed many times over the years for consulting positions, and you get the typical consulting case studies. How many golf balls will fit in a jumbo 747, for example? Weird types of questions that, people interviewing for a consulting position will ask, so that they get an idea of how you think, because it's how you think that makes the biggest difference in your success as a consultant. And then, of course, dress code. We constantly get that question in the webinars that we run. And that is a very important topic. And we certainly do give you quite a lot of ideas there for you to go and consider. And, Tracy, having done this for 20 years, really does have a lot of insight that she can give you. And I'm just going to put the link here for the LinkedIn webinar recording, so that you can go and have a look at that, just based on the question earlier about getting more insights about using LinkedIn to boost your network and your profile. There's a whole webinar there, and there are sections in the course that I'll be talking about just now, which will give you more value in terms of leveraging LinkedIn. And then lastly, just to start wrapping up on our sort of insights around interviews, we do have a whole lesson on virtual interviews. As we well know, the world has digitized. Another of my courses is the digital masterclass, how technology is changing the world and what you need to know about that. And of course, the big impact, obviously in the last year or so, is because of the lockdowns, where we've needed to maintain our interaction. We've obviously now accelerated that digital transformation. It was happening anyway, even before the pandemic. And now, because of the lockdowns and the need to maintain that interaction, we've all hopped on to meeting platforms like Teams and Zoom, and YouTube and social media and other ways of learning at home, working at home, and continuing to interact with people in our lives. So when it comes to interviewing online, you need to have backup plans. You need to be confident enough to reschedule if it doesn't work. If something falls apart at the last minute, then there's nothing wrong with rescheduling it. People are very, very happy for you to manage the process and say, look, I'd like to come back at a different time. And then in the course, we also teach you about where your eye line needs to be. If you look at the camera, it's about a third. My eye line is about a third down from the top. There's good lighting behind my camera. Looking directly into the camera, that's very important. So there's lots there that we teach you in the course about how to give a successful virtual interview. Yuvish, this is a very good point here, and we do make the point in the course that when you answer questions, you need to wrap up very effectively, and you almost need to focus on your wrap up, and your wrap up will stop you rambling, because if you don't know how to wrap up an answer, you'll keep rambling. So we actually teach you, how to wrap up an answer to a question. And if you get to the wrap up, then you're not going to ramble on too long. And that's also why we say keep a notebook, because if you make, 2 or 3 points, then you'll stick to those specific points as you answer the question. And look, it is tough. You get different types of interviews. When I've done countless interviews over my career, hiring new people coming into the organization. And, when I ask the question, I try and give the person a little bit of time to make some notes so that they're as organized as they possibly can be. But sometimes you'll just get a question dumped on you. And the reason that you ramble and you're not so concise is because your brain is trying to, construct the answer to the question. You're almost buying time. So another tip that we teach you in the course is to repeat the question in the answer. So that also gives your brain time to think. And then by the time you've just repeated that question in the form of the answer, hopefully your brain has come up with a couple of those good points that you can use in your answer, so that you structure the content and wrap up effectively to avoid being verbose in the discussion. All right, then let's look at CVs, and I'm just going to put the link to the CV masterclass in the course, and the same deal as the interviews. You've got free enrollment access into that course for the next 3 days. But once you've enrolled in that course, you'll have lifetime access to it. And as I indicated previously, we make lots of announcements into the courses. If Tracy or I are going to do new lessons, we'll pop that lesson into the course, and it'll be continually updated. And you'll be able to introduce yourself to other students. You'll be able to tell us what your goals are. And what's fantastic about the CV Masterclass course is that Tracy's actually developed a template based on her 20 years of being a career coach. We give you that template in the course, and then you take action to update your CV and send that into us through the assignment feature of the course, and we'll be able to give you some feedback on your CV. Common mistakes, yes, absolutely. We do talk about common mistakes in the course. So I think dress code and body language, are common mistakes. One that comes to mind, just in response to your question, is that people try and be someone they're not. And that's really a big mistake. Just be who you are, but be as professional and focused as you possibly can on presenting yourself in the interview. So don't try and answer a question in a way that you think they want to hear the answer. You need to think about why they're asking the question, what they want to get out of it, but then you need to give your own honest and authentic perspective on it. And in the CV Masterclass course, I talk about the importance of CVs, and I give some top tips from my own experience. And one of those is to build in that authenticity. Because if you start to include that in your CV and you're authentic in your interview, I can tell you now from 20 years of doing interviews, the interviews that have stood out for me are the ones where we found, some topic or some, aspect of the person's background or experience that just stands out, in comparison with other candidates. And it's often from that, authentic, honest, real life story or, interesting experience or qualification that the person has got that makes it real for the interview. So hopefully that was useful. And Joseph, good evening. If you've joined us a bit late, the recording for this webinar will be available at the same link that you used to get here. So you can always go back and get reference to it. And then the links, the action that you'll be able to take as a result of this session, we'll be putting all of that in the chat as well. And maybe while I'm thinking about it, please, the YouTube channel that you're on at the moment is the Student Success Coach YouTube channel. And I'd really appreciate it if you could, hop on there and subscribe. You'll get lots of value from the YouTube channel. I provide coaching tips, all our webinars. I go live actually every Friday at 12 o'clock. On various different topics. In fact, this Friday, I'm interviewing Yolandi Richards from Pucker University. She's a PhD student there, and she's recently got the fantastic news that her research proposal has been approved. So if you're in the middle of doing a research proposal, then join us on Friday. But if you subscribe and switch on notifications, I put the link in the chat there. You'll get all the updates. And then very importantly, and I think this is probably the greatest value, hopefully, that you can get from today, we have a vibrant Facebook group, which is the free community of the Student Success Coach, and you can hop in there. And in that Facebook group, I provide all the updates of all the events, especially our Friday Learning Your Lunchtime webinars at 12 o'clock. And the great thing about the Facebook group is that you've got other students in there. There's no supervisors. There's no one's measuring you or, assessing you or anything like that. It's a safe space for you to come in, talk about issues that you have. We regularly provide articles and updates and access to experts. And one of the fantastic things that people do to manage their time and help them stay focused on their studies, they use a time management principle called Burn the Boats. I have another course on how to beat procrastination, specifically geared towards students. And in the Facebook group, I give people a chance to burn their boats, which effectively means that they make a commitment to some work and some outcomes they're going to do over a specific period of time. And we help them achieve their goals in the Facebook group. So, for example, they'll say, I'm going to do 2 study units by 11 o'clock tonight, and then we follow up and we encourage and we cheer them on. So if you're missing that just aspect of community, and as we've all been working and learning from home over the last year or so, we've lost the opportunity to be on campus and get the community and the interaction, the support from other students. This Facebook group may be exactly what you're looking at. So do join us in there, and you'll get access to obviously myself and all of the other experts and students that we have in that community. Joseph, just the last question on the interviews. What happens if you can't answer a particular question? They've asked what we advise you in the course, and Tracy teaches on this in one of the lessons. Don't answer it in the hope that you'll get it right, because the chance that you'll maybe just look a little bit silly. Offer to follow up with an email after the interview. And that'll give you a chance just to go and do a bit of research and also interact with the people after the interview. Because what's a critical thing is, once you walk out the door of that interview, you might be a little bit of a loss. When are you going to hear from them next? What was the follow-up? What is expected from you, etc. But if you've got that question that you need to answer, you can take an email address, you can send them a little bit more detail, you can continue that conversation, and you stay top of mind, with the recruiter and the hiring manager, possibly that were interviewed in that process. All right. So there's just a little bit of updates from other students who have done that CV Masterclass course. So Murphy, Retabile, Miriam, and really concrete, tangible opportunity there to improve your CV based on the tips and tricks that we give you in the course. Apply that using the template that we give you in the course as well, and then submit that as part of the assignment and get some feedback from Tracy. All right, so let's just look then, what is the purpose of a CV? How does it help you get a job? It really represents you in a professional capacity. So it puts you on paper. It's kind of like Tracy calls it the passport to travel successfully in your career. And there's some core information. It needs to summarize your background and experience in a relevant way. And it's often that first point of contact that you'll have with a prospective employer. And it therefore opens doors, because based on your CV in comparison to other people's CVs who will be hiring for that position or applying for a program of sorts, it'll then hopefully open the door into an interview, and you'll be able to apply the tips and tricks and what you've learned from the topics that we went through on interviews, and of course in more detail in the course as well. So as I mentioned, I give 3 top tips in the course based on my experience of CVs, and I'll give you those now. Number 1, you must be proud of your CV. If you see your CV as something that's a bit of a drag to fill in as a necessary administrative requirement for getting a job, then there's a good possibility you're not going to put the right amount of focus into it. I've spoken about the authentic aspects of it because that creates talking points, and it helps you stand out. It helps you be seen as a real person. And look, don't be scared of holding back because you think it might not be what they want to hear. If it is the wrong thing for the interview, then you're going to be the wrong person for the job. And it's better to discover that in an interview process than when you go and start working for the company. I used to do a lot of interviews at Accenture, where I spent 10 years. And very often in the interviews, I would get into a discussion about what a career at Accenture would actually involve. And people would actually start realizing in the interview that that probably wasn't what they had anticipated. And they realized then that they had sent their CV in and we'd invited them for an interview, but actually it was better that we didn't continue the process, because they felt now that they didn't want to go into a job where they'd be unhappy. So bringing that authentic way of presenting yourself into both your CV and the interview just creates a stronger connection with the prospective employer, and gives both sides, both parties, an opportunity to really assess you properly for the role. And I think there's a lot being said about different CV layouts and styles. We give you that template that Tracy developed. I also do a demonstration in the course of a CV tool called novaresume.com. I keep my CV on there, and possibly that format is one for when you've got a little bit more experience and you're further on in your career. The template that we provide in the course is possibly at that earlier stage for job seekers, but we give you both of those in the course. And ultimately, you must be comfortable. If you like Nova Resume, then use it as early on as you want to in your career. If you like the CV template Tracy's developed, then use that one. Or perhaps if you're going through an agency, or there's a requirement in terms of the prospective employer for your CV layout, then you must be flexible and comfortable with whatever CV layout and style that you use. Guys, hopefully this is useful. Then Yuvish, what is the ideal length of a CV? So we do touch on that in the course as well. And this is the difference between a CV and a resume. A resume is actually a more condensed version of a CV. So a CV can be a little bit longer. What we teach you in the course is how to be concise in the individual bullet points, within each area of a qualification or an aspect of your experience. Now, at the early stage of your career, you're not going to have too much of a challenge of trying to condense 10 pages down to 2 or 3, for example. But I think, you must just, present it in a way that, if you were to read it, you wouldn't feel that you had to wade through a lot of information to get the core points out of it. And often the length is determined by how concise you are in each individual bullet point. So you really need to, assess each bullet point. How concise is it? How quickly do you give the information across? And if each bullet point of each section answers that criteria, then that's the length, that's the correct length of your CV. Don't force it into 1 page or 2 pages just because you think that's the answer. But equally, going beyond 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages, as I say, it's unlikely that you're going to have enough to put in that length of a CV at an early stage in your career. But when I've got CVs, that are 10 pages, I often will just jump around and really only look at what's important for the role. And on that point, if you are later on in your career, you should really only put the last 2 or 3 years of your experience, because that's really what the recruiter and the hiring manager is going to be interested in. They're certainly not going to be interested in something, from 10, 15 years ago. And that's often what extends a CV and makes it look a little bit too lengthy and too wordy. But Yuvish, again, I'd invite you to go into the course and approach the course and the sort of lessons that we take you through as a full induction or masterclass on CVs, and we touch on length, within different lessons for different reasons. I'm not going to go through, chapter and verse on the personal details. That's all in the workbook and available there on the screen. But we do teach that in the course as well. Some principles I think are useful, and really the approach that you've got to take, and obviously privacy concerns come up in terms of do you put your birth date, do you put your address? These are real privacy concerns, and you really just have to assume that recruiters are going to be using the information in your best interests. So your date of birth could be useful for a recruiter to actually maybe give you another opportunity if the one that you've applied for isn't suitable because of the amount of experience that you have based on your date of birth. It could open another door for you if you've been able to give them more information than otherwise. So other roles could be available for you, and something like a location helps employers manage a distributed workforce. They need to determine, must they give you transport? Are you able to get to the office location, for example? These are all practical considerations, and really the advice that we give you in the course. And Tracy, being a graduate recruiter of many, many years, talks from that perspective and gives you the advice to just approach it with a certain amount of trust that they're going to look at that information in your best interest. But we also do give you some advice around things to keep off that are unnecessary, and that if it did get into the wrong hands, would be a privacy concern for yourself. We certainly touch on that in the course as well. So I'll give you their personal details, things that you don't need to be included. So marital status, family information. Tracy gives some really humorous examples in the course where somebody listed, for example, all their pets, pet names, and their entire family breakdown, history, and obviously a wonderful family life that they were trying to present, but it's just completely unnecessary. Obviously, if you do put a photograph in there, keep it professional. Tracy talks about whether or not you should put a photograph in the course as well, so you'll get a bit of insight there. Criminal record, you don't need to put, only if they ask you for that. And really, the recruiter's going to ask you for something if it's absolutely vital. If you're in doubt, rather keep it off to be on the safe side. But balance with that earlier principle there of adding something in that's authentic and creates a talking point for you, possibly in the interview at a later stage. All right, so we're coming to the third major sort of topic in this webinar this afternoon. And really, that's just about helping you anticipate the world of work. And this course really has two halves. The first is just how to position yourself, and I'll go through what that includes just now. So really entering into the workplace. And then the second half of the course is once you've got into the workplace. So one of the things that we talked about offering in this webinar was just anticipating what that world of work is going to be like. And that second half of the course then it starts to give you that perspective so that you understand how you'll then actually make progress in the workplace and accelerate your career growth. And you'll be better able to do that if you've got some understanding of how the workplace actually operates and what will be expected of you as a prospective employee. So first half of the course, approaching the world of work, and the second half of the course then going into a little bit more detail as to how to be successful in the workplace. So at a higher level, we do also touch on interview techniques there, but we go into a bit more information about time management, goal setting, getting more done. Everybody's only got 24 hours, but if you can be a productive, disciplined and organized employee, then you're going to be successful in the workplace and stand out against your other colleagues. We touch on CVs there, but obviously do go into more detail in the CV masterclass. We talk about communication skills, and there just the question that was asked earlier, LinkedIn for professional networking. So there's a full lesson on that. We'll touch on it just now, but in that course, and I will put a link to that now. Improve your job prospects and accelerate your career growth. I'm going to put that link in here now. Here we go. And I see there's a question to Seen, should race disability be included? We certainly don't, myself and Tracy didn't feel that it's needed. The recruiters will ask you for that if necessary. No, we didn't feel that you needed to put that in your CV, just as a kind of quick answer to that question there. But again, there could be circumstances where it's useful for you and useful for the recruiter and improves your job prospects. But again, if you go through the course and listen to all the lessons, you'll see that coming through in the discussion that Tracy facilitates in the course that might be useful for you. We talk about personal branding. So one of the important things there is, and I touched on this earlier, LinkedIn as a professional digital networking platform, obviously very different to your Facebooks and your Instagrams, which is going to be very much more your social life. You want to keep your networking content on LinkedIn very much more professional, but recognizing as well that employers, would have potential access to content that you've made available on your social media platforms. So in the course, I do teach about the importance of understanding your digital footprint and recognizing that that could jeopardize your job prospects if there's things in there that you posted previously that may not be suitable for the culture of the workplace that you're trying to get a job at. Now, I also make the point in the course that might seem unfair if that's a personal account, but one must just understand the importance and the power of brand association in the eyes of the public and especially the media. So even though you're acting in a private capacity, people will still make that connection between you and the place that you work. So, for example, I've been a media spokesperson at FNB, and I'm conscious of that in all of my digital interactions on any platform. The good old billboard test. You never post anything unless you're happy for it to go up on a billboard. I think that'll just keep you honest in terms of branding yourself for the workplace. But again, go into a little bit more detail on that in the course itself. All right, so a couple of thoughts from other students that have been through it. Best course when looking to be the best in the work industry, educates you about the importance of being a professional everywhere. Social media is an important tool, so just as we were saying now, use it wisely. And then to the question earlier about building a network, Elmore, as a student of the course, found that particularly useful, as well as the demos. and a must-do course for newcomers to the workplace. And I think that's really what we were aiming for from this webinar, is that the university wants their students to start anticipating the workplace and getting a sense of what that's going to be like, both in terms of getting a job, but then being successful in the workplace. So between the job interview course, which is an in-depth overview of how to get into a job through the interview process, the CV masterclass, chapter and verse on how to prepare and update your CV, with an opportunity for us to give you feedback on that, as well as then the two sections of this job prospects course, preparing yourself for the workplace and then making progress and being successful in the workplace. I think you've really got quite a lot of content and opportunities there to take action and go and achieve the goals that you're looking for. So as we were talking about, just carefully managing your social media and internet information, and then Nova Resume, as I mentioned, keeping your CV focused and relevant, use testimonials and references. And this is where the link with LinkedIn comes in, because you can build up a lot of detail on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is the place to put detail. Obviously, people are going to be looking at it, but you can write lots on your LinkedIn profile. You can also solicit endorsements for specific skills. You can solicit recommendations, as I spoke about previously. And then from your LinkedIn profile, you can select and summarize to put into your CV. So I found the best use of my LinkedIn profile is where I put a lot of detail. So let's say, for example, if I got an award and it was in the media, I could put that link in there. Or if I wrote an article or a blog, I could put that link in to my LinkedIn profile. And then if I was going for a job that was relevant to those specific elements or those specific recommendations, then I could draw from that to put into my CV. I do also touch on the cover letter, and this is really about creating context between yourself and the organization. You don't necessarily want to write a different CV for every different job that you're going for, but you should write a different cover letter. And the cover letter really then demonstrates a little bit of your understanding of that job and the workplace culture that you're aiming to get into. Link that back to yourself, and then with reference to your CV, but I'll give you a lot more detail on that in the course. And of course, we touch on virtual interviews in more detail in the interviews course, but here also make a couple of useful points for you to get some insights about the virtual interview and how to make sure that's successful for you. And then getting into your career. So, you will get your big break. Don't give up. Don't get your hopes up. You're going to have to work hard to get that job. And then even once you get that job, it's going to be a question of climbing the career ladder and being successful in every role that you perform. And just going into the workplace, you need to, go into an interview, you need to approach prospective employers with a degree of confidence that you can do the job. And we advise you, in the interviews course, that people coming into an interview, they're experiencing the culture and a day in the life of that organization. And if you are kind of seamless and well integrated into the culture of that organization, then that interview of you, which is just one of many meetings that hiring manager is going to be having during the day, will feel like you're almost already working for that organization, and will increase the chances that you'll be successful. So you see that interview almost as the first step of many steps that you're going to take in being successful in that organization. It takes years and years of effort. You can do things like getting a coach and a mentor, someone that you trust, build a relationship with them. It's a network for reasons. You need to put work into it. You need to give value to people that are in your network. But a coaching relationship is slightly extended version of just a normal connection that you'd have with somebody on LinkedIn or in the office. It's specifically where you ask them to help you grow and develop and be successful in a role. And remember that they will also get some value from it. And when I've coached and mentored people over the years, I've often used those relationships to keep myself updated with what people are being challenged with in possibly my own organization or in other organizations. So coaches also do get value from coaching relationships. Guys, any questions, please do ask them as we go. But we've kind of got about 10-15 minutes left of the session. Hopefully it's been useful for everybody, and it's been great to join the session with University of Pretoria today. Last few thoughts on career progression. Don't set your sights too high. I'm not saying don't be ambitious, but just recognize that you are going to have some failures along the way. And to be honest, those are often only failures in your mind. And we're often very hard on ourselves, and you won't go for every promotion that you aim for. You won't succeed at every project. In fact, you won't be successful every day. There'll be some days and some meetings that won't go well. And it's more about the resilience and getting back on top and having a growth mindset that'll help you achieve the career growth that you're looking for. And I think just very importantly, I can't underestimate the importance of teams. I just finished my PhD last year. I was investigating agile teams in large organizations, and I'm very passionate. I've done a lot of research about teams. And teams are so important in organizations. And you almost just need to have that mindset, rather to be part of a team first. And then, once you are integrated into a team and you have the interests of the team at heart, then you can certainly demonstrate your individual success. Harry Kane or any of the best soccer players in the world, or rugby players, or in any team sport, cannot be successful as an individual. Harry Kane is not going to be able to score a goal unless he first plays as a team to get into the other side's half, so that he can then go and score his goal. He'll be very successful as an individual and as a top goal scorer, but only in the context of being a team player first. So hard work, patience, all those good things. And then, as I mentioned, get recommendations from people on LinkedIn. That's one of the most powerful things that you can get from LinkedIn, is those recommendations. Then you put that as references onto your CV. Right, then if you browse my catalog of 37 courses on Udemy, you'll see that I talk and teach a lot about time management and beating procrastination and getting things done. But I give you a little bit of an overview of some of those principles in this course so that you get the benefit of that as well. And certainly in the workplace, one of the most important words that you can use, it's a little 4-letter word, and that word is done. So if you're able to say to your boss, that task that you gave me, it's done. Or in a meeting, people are asking and they need things. If you're able to say, yes, it's done. And you build a reputation as somebody who can say that word. That's when you're going to get the promotions. That's when you're going to get the opportunities. Yes, more work will come your way. That's often the dilemma in the workplace, is that more work goes to people who are able to get the work done. That's just how capitalism works, and the allocation of resources. Don't worry about the performance management of people who don't perform and who get out of doing work. That's not for you to worry about. Yes, it might let the team down, and that you need to be aware of. But just rise above others by having a reputation for getting things done. So there's a couple of principles that I teach in the course. They're like the power of 10 minutes, burning your boats, managing action lists, and more. So look forward to seeing you in that lesson in the course there. So guys, really that's it from the webinar sort of formal content perspective. Really would just ask if there are any more questions, please do pop them in the chat. And I'm just going to make sure that you've got the various links and actions that I promised you throughout the course. Now, Tracy Ashington, who is my co-instructor in the CV course and the interview course, is a personal career coach, and you can hop onto her website there, pop her an email if you would like to invest in a consultation with her. She actually does mock interviews. She really helps you prepare and be successful for the workplace based on her extensive experience. I put her links there as well. The Facebook group, very powerful opportunity for you to get the support and the interaction that you need, which we've all missed out on over the last year or so. And again, all of the webinars of the Student Success Coach, we go live every Friday. All the recordings are available in there, all the posts and the updates and the access to experts that you get, all in the Facebook group. So please do click on that and join us there as well. And then my own website, where again all of these links are also available, as well as links to all the courses. You can pop in there and get all the information that you need. And I do have a mailing list. It'd be great to see you guys sign up there. If I, launch a new course or I've got a promotion running on a course, then I'll pop a note out to my mailing list, and you can get that information there. And then really just the last thing to recap and the actions to give you guys is then to actually go and enroll for these courses that we've worked very hard to prepare and make available for you for free access today. So the first course is the one that we've just talked about now, which is improve your job prospects and accelerate your career growth. Remember, that's got the two sections: going into the workplace and then being successful in the workplace. And then just really a course that's actually done exceptionally well on Udemy is the CV Masterclass, which I co-instruct with Tracy Ashington, as well as the Interview Like a Boss course. And I'm providing that link to you there as well, for you to take action and go into more detail after the session. All right, so Ty, if you're still there, it'd be great to have you pop on again, and we can chat about any of the topics that we've covered in the session. But Ty, any thoughts from your side? Have we given some value and some opportunities for people to take action after the session?
Yes, Peter, you have. Thank you so much. I mean, for myself, applying for like learnerships and grad programs now, I was a bit lost in the sense of what I needed to put in my CV. And, like just when you do get an interview, what do you wear? How do you act? That type of thing. So this course was very beneficial for me. And thank you so much for making it available to the UP students for free. We
Absolute
appreciate
pleasure.
it so much.
Absolute pleasure, Ty, and it's great to have been invited to the session today, and I look forward to seeing you in any of those courses. As I said earlier, once you enroll in any of my courses, you become one of my students, and we'll engage in the course. You'll be able to engage, and introduce yourself to the other students, and I'd just love to have you in my community of students. So please do go take action, enroll in those courses, and like Ty said, get all the value that we prepared for you so that you can be successful and have the confidence that comes from having those questions answered, because ultimately it really is just about confidence so that you can be successful and make sure that you convert the great work and all the effort and hours that you put in as a student at University of Pretoria into ultimately then success in the workplace. So guys, from my side, it's been a pleasure to join you today. You can access this recording from the same link, and all the links have been in the chat for you to take action after the session. Thanks, Ty. Thanks, everybody. It's been a great session. Have a super Monday afternoon further. Cheers.